Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to show you how to paint watercolor Morning Glory. Morning Glory is one of the birth month flowers for the month of September, and I cannot wait to show you how to paint this beautiful flower. For this project I am using a piece of 140-pound cold press Arches watercolor paper, my limited palette of colors that has a cad yellow, magenta, cerulean, indigo, and sap green. I will also be using two sizes of round brush today. I have a size 4 round brush and a size 10 round brush from Princeton. I'm going to start by using my size 10 round brush, and we're going to use clean water only at first, no paint yet. And essentially, I'm going to be painting a circle with this clean water. And I want you to think of the Morning Glory as almost like a skirt. If someone was spinning in a circle with a skirt on, and the way that it fans out, but it has a ripply edge, that's what we're trying to paint. A circle with a ripply edge, but we're going to leave the center open without any water at this point. Then we're going to pick up cerulean, pretty thick, consistency right from the well, and we're going to tap this color on the outer edge of this watery circle that we've painted. Again, it's going to be ripply, not even. You don't want to paint an even circle like a donut. You want it to have bends and movements and divots within this circle so that it has that ripply feel. We're going to tap it just on the edge and then start bringing this color down in. On the bottom half of the Morning Glory, we are going to bring the color all the way to the edge of the watery circle that we painted. But the top half of the Morning Glory, we are not. And that's because I also want you to think of the Morning Glory as a trumpet. So we have the big circle skirt that we have painted, but as the petals are coming together at the center, instead of connecting, they are going down deep to create a trumpet. So we leave the center open to give that illusion of depth, but also we are going to create the lines of a Morning Glory to enhance that illusion. So we're going to use the other end of our brush, the hard end, to push into the paper as we create these lines. The indentation in the paper is going to cause the pigment to flow into it, creating a natural, darker line. The way in which we create these lines, the curves that we use, is going to be the make or break of this entire flower. So from the outside, curving inward, going through the white space on the top half of the flower, and on the bottom half of the flower we are ending because we're seeing the edge of the petal without seeing the inside of the flower. So just really focus on what I did and how I curved it down in. It's so hard to explain, but once you're able to get that effect with the curving of the lines, then the Morning Glory will look like it's really going down deep, creating that trumpet. And then while the flower is still wet, I am adding more cerulean on the edges. And just to make a note, when you are creating those lines in the flower with the other end of your brush, the flower needs to also be still wet for that to work. When you add the cerulean on the edge, if it is not blending because your paper is now starting to dry, you can rinse your brush, tap out all the water on a paper towel, and then use a damp brush to blend that line so it's a little bit more diffused and not so hard. Once you have the flower where the outer edge is more intense and it gets gradually lighter until it's white in the center, we're going to let that dry and move on to another flower. Again, I am using clean water to start this flower, but this flower we are seeing from the side. So I want you to picture, someone who is in a skirt twirling, and now you're looking at them straight on so you can see it's more of a triangle as it creates the trumpet shape where it starts on the upper edge. So the upper edge is still going to be wavy and ripply, and we're going to add some cerulean blue right to the edge, but now we don't really need to worry about a center or leaving it open, but we are not bringing that color all the way down to the triangle that is coming out to the left. Now we are going to be adding some cad yellow at the tip of the triangle that is coming out to the left. So just think about that same trumpet shape. We are creating the trumpet, but we're seeing it from the side. So we want some in-between white space. So we've got the yellow at the bottom, We're going to leave some space where there's not really a ton of color, it's more diffused, and then the bright blue edge at the very top. I also added a tiny bit of yellow, just the tiniest bit, coming out of the bottom of the first flower that we did, because we do want the trumpet to continue down where we are adding some greenery to the bottom of it. But we don't want to make it too long because we're not going to be able to see most of the bottom of the first flower's trumpet. Now let's work on the greenery. This is sap green, and I'm creating a very simple heart-shaped leaf. I'm really almost just outlining the shape so that I get it exactly how I want, and then filling it in, making sure to leave a bit of white space down the center of the leaf to represent the vein. Once I have a main leaf that really looks like a leaf, then I can focus on other leaves that are maybe seen from the side, like this one over here, where it's not going to be as exact, and that's okay. It balances the weight out really nicely. We have one very big leaf here at the bottom. We don't need more big leaves. We needed a smaller leaf a little bit more tucked in on the upper left. Now we can add lines for the stems of the flowers, but they don't need to completely connect to the leaves. I love implied lines that maybe this leaf is connected lower down on the stem, so we're not seeing an exact connection. I also love adding indigo into my leaves and my greenery while everything is still wet to really give some shadow and depth, and it's a nice blended effect. Once I added the stems and the big leaves, I was able to see better the weird holes in the painting, and I love balancing out a painting with smaller elements like this smaller leaf that came over to the right, and I knew I needed a smaller bud for a morning glory. So once I had gotten all of my leaves where I wanted them, I used clean water to create a morning glory bud. This was really just a rough rectangular shape. I'm imagining this big skirt of a flower all folded up. It's going to have a rough, wrinkly top edge, and then it's going to come down more into a rectangular shape that's a little bit long. So once I had it in clean water, I added cerulean to the top and yellow to the bottom, and then I connected the yellow at the bottom with some greenery, bringing it down to connect to the rest of the plant. Painting is such a balancing act, especially when you are painting on the fly and not sketching it out first. So I could tell I needed something on the right side to balance out this painting after I added that morning glory bud. So I've mixed in a little bit of magenta with my sap green to get a more olivey green color, and I brought the stem down underneath the big leaf, and then a tiny little stem coming up to imaginary, connect to that morning glory that's on the right, and then another leaf coming out the right side. And this changed it for me. Once I added that, it felt so good, so balanced. It almost looks like the plant is like curtsying to the right side. I don't know if you ever humanize things and see things that way, but I definitely do. Adding some more intense greens, adding some more indigo, making sure that everything has a lot of depth and balance within the greenery before it's dry. And then we can move on to finishing off the piece with the center of that first main morning glory. So to really give that feeling of depth, we're going to create a yellow-orange color in the center. I started with some cad yellow. I fiddled with it a little bit to make sure it was intense, but not too intense. Added some magenta to make sure it had a slight orange hue. And also I added it closer to the bottom. I don't want to lose some of that white space we have before we get to the blue. Now, you could leave your morning glory like this, but I really wanted to intensify the blue on the edges of the morning glory. So I'm using mostly cerulean, but this time I'm adding some indigo to really take the color up a notch and darken it to add contrast. Because my flowers are dry, I'm going to add this color very thick to the edge of the flowers, and then I'm going to rinse my brush and with water help diffuse and soften that edge and bring it down into the rest of the flower without losing a lot of that light airiness we have in the center of the flower. And I want you to notice that I tap my brush onto my paper towel a lot, so do that as much as you need to. For this bigger flower, I don't want this intense pigment I'm placing around the edge to dry before I have a chance to soften the edge, and so I'm doing half at a time. So I'm doing the left half, putting this intense color on just the edge, rinsing my brush, and with a damp brush I am moving this color down. Again, we don't want to move it all the way down because we still really need our medium and light values. We are just intensifying our dark values so we have enough contrast. And it's fun because you can see left side versus right side and how much interest it adds to add that deeper contrasting color. So don't forget to add that deeper color also to your bud over just at the top. And then once you've placed it on the right side of the big morning glory, again, we're going to rinse our brush, tap off the extra water onto your paper towel, and really diffuse this color down into the flower, but not all the way down. We can diffuse it more down on that lower half circle of the flower where we're seeing more of the petal, but make sure you're keeping a lot of the light space as we get deeper into the center. Now, using this light blue that I have on my brush already, I'm not picking up a new color, I am going to enhance the lines that we already created. So when we created those lines using the back of our brush, we were able to give ourselves a template and some intensity of color in those lines, but I'm also going to enhance those lines and create those lines on the flower that we're seeing from the side and a couple quick lines on the bud as well. Now I'm picking up cad yellow, mixing it slightly with magenta that is already on my palette to get a light orange wash to have a bit of contrast in the yellow areas on our painting as well. So that's going to be right at the bottom of our morning glories where the yellow is attaching to the green, just a few strokes of that and a little bit of orange into the very center of that open morning glory. Now I'm going to again mix up indigo and cerulean to get a deeper blue color because we do need to enhance our lines just a little bit more. The lines on a morning glory are really important because they are a key feature of the flower and really lets us know that this is a morning glory. We don't want to outline them perfectly because we don't want it to look like a coloring book, but using light pressure and disconnected lines, we can really enhance those lines and those features and make it look very organic and nice. Then using that same color that's already on our brush, we can add textures and details right on the edge of the morning glories as well. I think it's always nice to come in at the very end with some of the colors that you've already used to create texture and kind of mess things up a little bit, quote unquote, so that it's not completely perfect. And that is our morning glory flower finished. Now I am writing morning glory and September because I am painting this flower as part of my monthly flower series for the month of September, but there is never a bad time to paint morning glories. I hope you enjoyed this flower and that you find success in painting your own morning glories. Please let me know if you have any questions below, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.